everyone. Welcome back to the Heel Report, part of Tar Heel 24/7. I'm staff writer Ellie Bowman, joined here by publisher Andrew Jones. Now, the Heels won tonight, 73-61, but it wasn't very pretty, and we're going to dive a little bit into that and what goes behind the score. So, Andrew, what are you thinking about how the game was and ended up?
I think that what's interesting is that Navy, first of all, I really enjoyed preparing for this game because I enjoyed watching Navy. They have all 5 starters back in an era where that doesn't happen. And obviously being an academy and not a lot of guys are leaving. I know their point guard got into the portal and pulled back out and returned. So they had 5 returning starters. They're the preseason pick to win the Patriot League. And then the point guard is the preseason pick to win Player of the Year. So this was a competent, together team that understands who they are coming in. And I thought that would be a little bit of a challenge for the Tar Heels because they're still searching and figuring themselves out. And sometimes you get these quality teams that come in that kind of know who they are and they're tight and they're refined and they can give you some trouble. And that's what happened. However, I got to be honest with you, Ellie. That's not why Carolina had trouble tonight. Carolina had trouble tonight because the Tar Heels just didn't play well. The Tar Heels didn't play with great energy. They didn't play with cohesion at all. I talked to Henry Vessar about that. We'll hit on a little bit later. There was a player-only meeting that was called by the players after Hubert addressed them in the locker room. In fact, we waited 27 minutes in the players' lounge for players to come out, which is the longest I can recall at home. A couple of times on the road's been a little longer. Wake Forest a few years ago was one, but this was a player-led meeting. We're going to get into that in a few minutes. But it was justified because they just didn't play well. They had a quick early spurt, a couple dunks early, which is sort of the Caleb Wilson thing. And then they led 19-9, 6.5 minutes in. It's like they took their foot off the accelerator.
Yeah.
And Navy was the aggressor. Navy sort of controlled the flow a little bit more. The Tar Heels looked like a ragtag outfit at times on both ends of the floor. Then when they made some mistakes, you started to see a little, I don't want to say it's bickering, but like, hey man, you're supposed to cut there or throw me the ball here or whatever the case is, set a better screen. There was just some exchanges that were not smooth. It's not what we've seen from this group. And honestly, it happens with all teams. It happens with football teams, basketball teams, baseball teams, especially teams where you have to interact a lot, where you have to intermingle a lot on the playing surface. With basketball, it's clearly that. So from that point on, they shot terribly the rest of the half. They got into the second half. Navy cut it to 4 and had the ball, 39-35, a minute in to the second half, minute and a half in. They had the ball, the chance to cut it to 2 or 1. And the Tar Heels got to stop. And then we had the little flurry of dunks from Jaron Stevenson and Caleb Wilson, which sort of gave them separation. And they methodically built a 24-point lead, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. But up to that point, even at 24 points, they had not played well. And I asked Jaron Stevenson after the game, I said, even without that late run that Navy had, was that worthy of a player-only meeting? And he said, yeah, because they just did not look good.
No.
They didn't look good defensively. They didn't switch properly. They didn't communicate well. There were times when they were on defense and not too far in front. We're right there looking right down on them. There's no communication whatsoever. So all the basic boxes that a coach wants checked before are the theatrical boxes. They really didn't check any of those tonight. Navy has a significant height advantage over Navy. They started one guy over 6'6", really only play 2 over 6'4" in the rotation, although they did play a big guy a little bit late. And Carolina did not have success pounding it inside. That was one of the 5 things to watch for that I had. The other thing was pound it inside, get a big lead, put foot on throat, because you cannot let an academy team stick around. Those guys are disciplined, they're gritty, and they ain't going away. And Carolina didn't do any of those things. The 5 things to watch for, they did none of those things. And so this is a great opportunity for Hubert Davis to get a 12-point win at home where the players call a meeting, and he gets to use this for film to just crush them over, essentially. Look, guys, you can't do this crap. They had Radford last week. We passed it off as Radford being a pretty solid team, and I think they are.
They are, I agree.
And this is the second time now. The second, Tuesday in a row?
Yeah, it was last Tuesday.
And they did not look good. So I think that I'm not going to say step back. Some people will say, some people are uttering that in the press room. I'm not going to say that because I think right now everything is just sort of like this because you're so early in the season. But it does sort of change how we view next week at Fort Myers about how do they play? What do they look like? What do they learn between now and then? Because they don't have a game. They got a lot of practices. Hubert says they're going back and they're going to work on some things. I asked him, I said specifically, is it refining, fixing, adding? He said all the above.
Yeah.
Got a lot of work to do.
Very profoundly too.
He was absolutely, and it's there. So I would imagine they're going to have some very, very hard practices coming up, and that's a good thing because they need it. It's early. It's November. If these guys are rolling in through the ACC, no one's going to remember what happened tonight for the most part. But what happened tonight can help them moving forward if they allow it to help them. And I think having a player-only meeting, which we'll talk about in a minute, is a huge thing because they have to take ownership of the team. They have to get their voices out. They have had a great time with each other, going to the beach and hanging out and playing ball and doing all that. And they needed some adversity.
Right.
They had some today, and they dealt with it. So we'll see what the end result is.
Well, I agree. And going back, you were saying what Hubert was saying at the press conference. He also said, and I wrote it down, that the energy was there in the second, but it just wasn't sustained energy. And the most energy came out at the very beginning of the game. And then, like you said, slowly went down. And I think most of the energy was coming from one player, Caleb Wilson. I mean, he had 7 dunks the whole game. And even when he was shooting and not making it, the whole crowd, when we were watching it, would go crazy.
Yeah.
So going off that, I mean, he's not just a spark, in my opinion. He's the whole fire pushing the team right now.
I think he's got that. And he's one of those, there's kind of a catch-22 here, Ellie, because when you have a game like this, you don't really always want your best player to have dominant numbers and to lead you to victory. You want other guys to be able to feel their oats in games like this. But I think Caleb being that guy is what he has to be.
Right.
Now, what they've got to do is find other ways for the guys to come along for the ride. I thought Luka was doing it for a while in the first half, and then he went silent. Hit a 3 in the second half. I don't know what he ended with, 16, 17, something like that.
I think so,
yeah. I think what you saw tonight was Luka could have put a 24 spot up and not look like he was doing anything different. He's a couple of shots in the lane on some drives. He's sort of forced. He probably needs to make some different decisions on some of those moving forward. So there's some good film work for him. But you don't, for all the wonderful things that Caleb provides them, he needs to have a few guys kind of lock arms with at times in games like where they post. This was a night Henry should have posted 25 and 12. And with the size advantage and all that stuff. And Henry and Caleb could have just been playing volleyball together and after dunk, but they didn't take advantage of it. The perimeter didn't handle the different stuff that Navy did defensively. And what ended up happening was Caleb had to just take over and say, screw everything else. I'm going to do this. And he did. And there is such an amazing residual effect of every positive thing he does. You can feel it in the building. In fact, the sequence, to your point, Stevenson had 2 dunks. His first dunks, he had 3 on the night, his first dunks of the year, and they got people going. But then Caleb gets a dunk, and the place goes nuts. And then and Navy calls a timeout. Caleb is going to lead the ACC in forced timeouts by the opponent this year. Yeah. It's not just because he gets 2 points on the board; it's how he does it. He could he could squeeze the soul out of an opponent when he does the things that he does and the way he reacts afterwards. He had only had a couple of jump shots he made tonight. One of them he made over on that side of the court in the second half in front of the fans. He turned and was yelling at the fans. And they're standing up loving it. Yeah. He's a guy that he needs to be a bird that flies. He needs to flap his wings. He needs to do Caleb things in order to be Caleb Wilson. I thought in the first half he was flustered some. He picked up a couple quick fouls. Should have had a third foul that wasn't called. Last week against Radford, he picked up a third foul in the first half. And you're thinking, okay, well, where's he? He's got to learn here. He's supremely talented, but he's still got to learn the game more. And I thought he probably should have picked up the third one, and then Hubert took him out a moment later.
Yeah, I took note of that. He was taken out before he could.
Yeah, well, because Hubert saw that play, but then he put him back in. Then he put him back in.
Right.
I would like to see Hubert trust the rest of the team to be able to get to halftime without Caleb. They have to become that team. Tonight was an opportunity to do it, and I think Hubert kind of maybe had the same kind of night the players did, where he should have probably trusted him a little bit more. And I've talked to some people around here, and they say, look, Hubert knows as much about basketball as anybody on planet Earth. He's a great teacher of it, but he needs to trust his guys a little bit more. And I thought tonight it looked like he was kind of looking at the scoreboard and saying, wait a second, what's going on here?
Yeah.
I know Roy never looked at the scoreboard in the first half. He swears he never did, and I believe he never did. I think Hubert does, and I thought he coached in the first half a little bit like that. Like, man, we've got to beat these guys. Instead of, it was an opportunity to maybe get better with some other guys on the floor. But that's all part of the season. They're going to have more opportunities like this ahead when they get back from the road trip.
Yes.
They've got St. Bonaventure coming up. They're not going to be a cakewalk. They're a solid Atlantic 10 team. They're going to have some good guards. They're going to play some bully ball. Michigan State beat the snot out of Kentucky tonight. So that's going to be another tough opponent. Then they go to Kentucky, and then they come and play Georgetown, who's looked really good so far. So the next 4 games could all be against NCAA tournament teams, at large caliber teams. I think St. Bonaventure could be an at-large caliber team. They've been on the fence the last few years. And so whatever things that didn't go well tonight that Hubert's going to hammer down in practice the next few days, we're going to see the result of that next Tuesday against St. Bonaventure, and then certainly against Michigan State. So I don't think this team is at a point right now where people can just pencil in wins without Seth. I think the next 4 are all going to be difficult games, and you saw tonight what it looked like not having Seth. And Caleb tried to take that over, but he doesn't have Seth's years.
He's still young. People forget he's a freshman sometimes.
He is, and he can be precocious, and he's very smart. He's got a great IQ, and he could run for president, and like Hubert said, in class president.
I'd vote for him,
all that stuff. But he doesn't have the tread on his tires that Seth does.
Right.
And Seth's a guy that can gather them in a free throw circle during a free throw or a dead ball situation, smack a few fans, say, guys, come on. But Seth's sitting over there on the bench with his arm in a cast.
There's only so much you can do from there.
So I think the value is, okay, they're figuring it out. They have to figure it out on the court without Seth. They have a chance to improve. So when Seth comes back, he's not picking them up. He's enhancing. And I think that in the 3 games they've played now, since Seth got hurt, 2 games, they really could have used him. And then NC Central, I think they so outmanned them. There wasn't not a whole lot we could take from that. So I would say this club's got some growing to do without Seth. So when he comes back, they can sort of take off and be the team that I think their potential suggests that they should be.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that they're aware of this themselves. I mean, what we were saying is Navy, I mean, there was let me see, I wrote it down, 158 left, and Navy was only down by 9.
Yeah.
And I think that says a lot. And I think they noticed that because, as we were mentioning, they called a meeting themselves.
Yeah.
And we were waiting for them in the press room, and we were, where are they? And they were all talking themselves. So they felt the urgency on themselves to come together and address what had happened. Because like we were saying, even though it was a win, I think that this win still brought up a lot of stuff they realized they need to work on, especially when they're about to be going on the road.
Yeah, Michael Coe, WCHL here in Chapel Hill, asked Jaron Stevenson a great question when he said, usually when teams call a player-only meeting, it's after a loss, after an ugly loss. You guys did it after a 12-point win. What does it say about the standard and expectation? Jaron gave a great answer. It was a phenomenal question by Michael, a really good answer by Jaron. And I think that's one of the positive takeaways from this is that they recognize that the standard didn't go on the floor with them tonight. Wherever the standard was, they left it in the parking lot. They left it in their dorms, their apartments, maybe scattered along the hallway, coming out to the tunnel. Wherever it wasn't on the floor with them tonight. They didn't play. And for 40 minutes of basketball, I don't think they played any minutes to the standard. And to your point also, at 4:47 left, they're up 24. And some of us are saying, wow, they could end up getting this thing by 30. And it's going to overshadow that they didn't play well. And that shows you how good they can be, because this is not chopped liver they play. Now, Navy's not going to be a top 100 net team, NET team, net ranking team, but they're still, a together organized opponent that knows itself and has had success. And if they would have done that, that'd have been pretty solid. It would tell you a lot about the potential. But what happened is Navy went on a 15-0 run. And that was about as disgusting a 3 minutes of basketball as I've seen from North Carolina in a long time. And the players know it too. That's why they called that meeting. I asked Henry, I said, was it the 50-0 run that did it? He said, yeah, it pretty much did it. Now, Jaron acknowledged that even before the 50-0 run, there was enough for them to talk about. But the 15-0 run was all 5 of them, and Hubert had the starters on the floor. He put Caleb back in at that point. I'm like, why is he putting Caleb back in? And Noah says, oh, pull him out to get a standing ovation. Caleb finished the game.
He did. He cleaned it up.
Yeah, that 15-0 run did not occur against the bench. It didn't occur against walk-ons. It was against the starters.
Yeah.
It was against rotation guys. That was a terrible 3 minutes of basketball. Terrible 3 minutes of basketball. And it was a 9-point game, as you noted. And I think Kyan hit a 3 maybe?
I think so.
Jaren hit a 3.
It was Jaren at then. He ended that 15. What was it? Yeah.
15-0 run. Yeah, that was gross. That was gross. That was unacceptable. And that has to be something that they kind of put over here in the side, like a mantelpiece. Like, don't forget that.
Right.
You walk in and there's a mantle. You got a family photo, mom and dad, and then you put that 15-0 run by Navy right there. So every time you go into the family room, you see it. It's right there. They shouldn't forget that because they allowed that to happen. Credit Navy. Navy's got a nice little squad. Credit them for fighting and continue to attack. But that was on Carolina. Never should have happened. 24
shouldn't have been that close.
4:47 left, foot on throat, end the game. They didn't do it. So they now must become that team. They didn't they allowed a 25-point lead against 26-point lead at Radford, turned into 16 or 15 or whatever it was. Same thing. But that was
too close for comfort.
Yes, but that was with the reserves on the floor.
Right.
So this was with the rotation guys. So they're going to have to learn from this. So they called a team meeting, a player-only meeting. Henry got a little bit into it. Now, Jaren did acknowledge that. He said, well, the leaders did it. Well, who's the leader? Seth. So Seth called it. So they clearly miss him on the floor right now. Yeah. It's Hubert's job and their job to figure out a way to not miss Seth on the floor. So like I said a minute ago, when he comes back, you're enhancing, not bringing up, but you're enhancing. And they should be able to do that. And maybe tonight will end up being one of the most beneficial nights of the year for this team, because it might be a night that you think on a Tuesday against Navy in mid-November when they had a really crappy turnout with the fans, that's a throwaway game. Maybe it turns out to be one of the most beneficial games of the year for them, because it's very much a process. And if you're in a process, you have to get everything out of every step of that process. So they should, with all that standard stuff that they left out in the parking lot and scattered all around Chapel Hill, if they scoop it all up and they make a big giant pile of standard, right next to it should be the giant pile of what they learned from this game tonight.
I think they can take a lot, and I think Hubert was touching on that and how he's glad that they have some time now before they go back on the road, and that they will be looking at the film. They will be looking at this because it is a learning experience, and I think we can't rely on just how many dunks we have. It's got to be the whole team. I know tonight Luka was talking about how he's trying to still learn defensively right now. Yeah. I think they all need to learn. I mean, he was playing against a place where defense isn't as big as it is here in the United States. So he's still learning, and they're missing Seth. So I think all of them as a team and leader-wise, they all need to come together, because Seth can't be the only one they're relying on. He can't be the one who's calling only the meetings. And I think they have a lot to learn this week coming up, reviewing it before going out on the road.
Yeah, Ellie, that's the blessing in disguise of Seth being out right now, because if he was out there tonight, maybe they don't have this adversity to grow from. Right. Now, you don't want to have to grow from a 15-0 run that you allowed a Navy. Yeah. The situation they were in. However, it happened, so get something from it. Everybody makes mistakes. We all screw up. You think you studied right for a test, you didn't, you get a 46 on it. Well, where did I go wrong? Because I'm getting an 86 next time. For me, an 86 was like hallelujah, celebration, get and drink and all that stuff. Didn't get many 86s back in my day. But my point is that you got to get value from this, and there's a lot of value they can get from it. So maybe we're cruising into February, and this club's kind of hitting on all cylinders, and you look back and say, this is where a lot of that stuff was sorted out. Yeah. And like I said before, I think Hubert's going to learn some stuff about certain guys coming off the bench during this period that Seth is out. In particular, Jonathan Powell. I think he's got the most to gain, most to lose. I've said that a few times. The bench was kind of invisible in some ways tonight. Zayden High has a nice kick out for an assist, and then he, has a poor defensive sequence on the other end.
Yeah.
which has kind of been what his game is.
He's had a hard start.
You want to have some games where you're up big early, so Zayden can get like 20 minutes. He needs to learn how to play defense at this level with his feet. And he's got some of the, I know people dog him and stuff, but he's got some things he can help this team with. That's why he plays.
Yeah.
But it's that defensive footwork and all those kinds of things. So they're done with the first wave of low-end Division I teams. They got another stretch coming up with South Carolina Upstate, East Tennessee State, and they have East Carolina coming in. They're not low D1. They're kind of middle D1. But they have to take those games really seriously and get as much out of them as they can for guys like Zayden, guys like Jaden Young, even get Jonathan Powell rolling, get him seeing the ball go through the basket. Guys need that. And tonight was an opportunity to have one of those games. They didn't do it. They had it against Central Arkansas. They had it against Central. Didn't against Radford, but I threw that one away. I can't throw tonight's away. Can't do it. You can't go do 2 straight Tuesdays and do this. So they got a lot to learn. This team has a tremendous amount of potential. They can play for a long time in March, but not if they don't learn from tonight.
Right. They've got a long road ahead of them. And as referring back to your grades, tonight was definitely a GPA hit.
Yeah.
The GPA
there you go. That's a good one. I like that.
If we're going to be giving grades right now, they got to recover from this one. They need to go study a little bit. You like the GPA hit?
Yeah, I'm used to GPA hits. I used to get them all the time.
I've been feeling that lately too. It's okay. But yeah, I think honestly they can learn from this. It was still a win in the books. I mean, it might not feel that way, and if you look at it, break it down, it was sloppy. It was not pretty, but it's a win. So they got out of it. They can go back to the books, keep on studying. Yeah. And I think that this is good. Like you said, wake up call. They don't have Seth. They need to work together more. They have all the pieces they need. Just keep working, and I think that this can start turning into something that really flows, and it can be clean, and they can be proud of it. No team meetings.
100%. I will be in Fort Myers next week.
Yes.
I'll be courtside for St. Bonaventure. I cannot wait to get there because now I really want to see the result of this week of practice. They don't have a game until then, and Hubert's like, "Yep, we're going to get to work." Yeah. So I cannot wait to see what that result is. You, Riken, or Jacob will be on to do 3 things with me afterward. I'll stay there and got Michigan State Thanksgiving Day, so I'll be there for that game as well. We'll do 3 things afterward. We got football coming up. Got Belichick Wednesday, and then we got
tomorrow
this weekend. Yeah, so we got a lot coming up, and looking forward to seeing how things play out. I felt that the next week and a half for North Carolina football and basketball is going to be very interesting. You got Duke and State in football, and you got St. Bonaventure and Michigan State. Then they go to Kentucky, come home against Georgetown. It's
a lot of blue.
We're going to learn a ton about this basketball team coming up. I can't wait. I love it.
I'm excited. It's just the beginning. But thank you for being here, Andrew. This was great. I'm glad we were able to go around this and kind of break it down a little bit more behind just the win, because
absolutely,
it wasn't just that. Thank you for watching.
Your first 3 things, and you did a fantastic job. Everybody give a thumbs up to Ellie, because she's going to be doing more and more of this. You're going to see her doing some women's basketball stuff, and then in baseball, you're doing some baseball stuff with Riken. So you're going to see more and more of Miss Ellie. But why am I calling you Emily tonight? You know why?
Why?
You know why? Let me show you something here.
I mean, it's close. I'll take it.
I have a friend named Emily. She sent me a text about basketball tonight. I call her Emily ACC. So as soon as right before we hit record, I looked and I saw her text, and that's for some stupid reason I was doing that. So demerit.
Well, Emily's a good name. I'll take it.
No. So demerit points for me, and that little competition with you and Jarvis.
Yes,
I was adding $5 to the pot. Since I said it twice now, I'm adding 10 more. So I'm adding $15 to the pot. So that's my demerit.
I'm excited.
That's my punishment.
Well, perfect. I'm looking forward to it. Well, thank you all for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and go over to our website and check out some more stuff that we've got. There's a lot coming up, like we said, so it's going to be exciting, and stay tuned. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Bye.